I just dey pray saying this heavy storm where they want unleash on Nigerians, may they not let am come true. If the election was really fair and white, as una talk am, why are you people finding it difficult to allow Nigerians to vote again? Is it not our money? Is it you guys' money? No. That one are by the side though. At the same time, una say internal government, president, una no fit put am because Nigeria not gets that system. But how is it possible say Nigeria gets only the system more until they put people wey be say they don't ready sit down for which chair? Is Nigeria weak? This is telling us that Nigeria is weak, because there is no way you will put a blind person to be leading people. Practically, the person they are leading is more blind than them. And above all, I don't understand the whole people where the Nigeria knows. The same person they run for the second time, the third time is coming back. Think.
State governors under the auspices of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, have called for the arrest and prosecution of those plotting to install an interim government and stop the swearing-in of President-elect Bola Tinubu on May 29. A statement issued last Friday by Atiku Bagudu, governor of Kebbi State and chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, as those governors are referred to, implored all Nigerians to remain vigilant and resist any undemocratic conduct capable of undermining the country's democracy. The statement reads in part, and I quote, "Our country has done well in promoting democracy both in Nigeria and elsewhere in the African continent. And it is sad that some unpatriotic elements are nursing the evil plot for interim government, which will amount to subverting our national democratic progress," end quote. On that same matter, a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Ulisa Agbakoba, senior advocate of Nigeria, has declared that there was no constitutional provision for an interim government in Nigeria, and therefore dismissed the idea as total hogwash. Agbakoba's comments came a day after the Department of State Services issued an alert claiming that some political actors were plotting to bring an interim government into power in order to stop Bola Tinubu from being inaugurated as president of Nigeria. In a communique, Agbakoba declared that those behind the plot must be handed the gravest possible consequences for their treasonable intent, but also admitted that the elections have been held under the most challenging of circumstances. According to him, the president-elect had emerged, a fact which must be respected and accepted. Ahead of the May 29 inauguration of the new administration, the Transitional Committee has assured Nigerians of a smooth handover despite ongoing litigation and threats. Chairman of the committee, Boss Mustafa, says the committee is working hard to ensure that the handover ceremony since the return to democracy will go according to plan.
There will be a formal handover on the 29th of May. It's a constitutional matter, and it has to be resolved. All litigations, whether resolved or unresolved, will not in any way stop the formal transfer of power. President Buhari is not spending a day extra after the 29th. He would hand over power to whoever has been declared by INEC. The court processes will continue, and whatever determination the court does, even after the swearing-in, it has always been accommodated. This is not the first time we have run elections. This is not the first time people have assumed offices, and litigations continue. We are doing everything to ensure that the process of the transition is not truncated. Federal government has issued a statement to that effect. The parties that are involved have also issued statements to that effect. But as far as the Presidential Transition Council is concerned, and that's the essence of our setting up the various committees. The Inauguration Committee, which has responsibility for the processes of the inauguration, the swearing in, the parades, the activities preceding the formal handover of power. The Security Facilities and Intelligence Committee has the responsibility to ensure that nothing happens to truncate and the process.
Against the backdrop of all those stories, Professor of Political Economy and Management expert Professor Patu Tome now joins us to look at elections, regime legitimacy, and government performance. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor Patu Tome.
Ruben, it's a great pleasure to be able to join you.
Well, thank you. Well, quickly, I already defined the focus, elections. How did that go? You were a major player there on the platform of the Labour Party and as a leading supporter of the candidate of that party. Now the elections are now over. There are persons who are raising questions about the legitimacy of the process and also about the performance of INEC, the institution. And we now have this general controversy about interim national government and the way forward for Nigeria. So the question is, against the background of what we have seen, who vadis Nigeria?
Thank you. It will be the equivalence of burying your head in the sand to pretend that we don't have, to use the words of Dati Baba Ahmed, a constitutional crisis in Nigeria. I approach it from an even deeper point, and I think you know this, Ruben. My entire engagement with political life is based on what I like to call the meta-narrative. What is it all about? Beyond you win election, you take power, the transactions that go with it. Why do we have a political process? What is it supposed to bring about? Nigeria, unfortunately, has underperformed as a country. Terribly, terribly underperformed. And people don't ask the question, why is this so? Given the talents available in Nigeria, given that we live in an age that Adrian Woolrich calls the aristocracy of talent, why does Nigeria perform so badly? Now, one of the reasons Nigeria performs so badly as a country, poverty capital of the world and all of those things that go with it, is the challenge of legitimacy for those who govern Nigeria. Every 4 years has now become some, stop, what's going on here? Are these the right people? And, we run into this crisis. Unfortunately for us, we are at it again. Let me say that, to make the most important point about elections, it is that they confer legitimacy on those who come out of the process. Simon Martin Lipset, in one of the most important socio-political writings, in the First New Nation, discusses this concept of legitimacy in such a wonderful way. Legitimacy is conferred first by elections and is earned every day by governments when they are in office. And legitimacy can wane, and you get into the politics of power erosion that can lead ultimately to regime failure. This makes elections in a democracy so important that we must do everything possible to keep any doubt away from the fact that those who emerge from the process are truly those who have come as a result of the will of the people. But as we know, this has not been quite the case in Nigerian history. I mean, the case of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu saying, power is not served a la carte, grab it, run with it. It's actually not original to him. The person I remember who was the original on that was the late Athon Zeribe. I think Athon Zeribe used to say that on election day, whether you even registered to be voted for or not, the important thing is to get somebody to announce that you won the election. Then you can say to them, go to court. Then you can go into office and use state resources to fight that person. Now, this has almost become the pattern with Nigerian politics, that it's almost taking legitimacy away from the process. It's almost made the idea of democracy in Nigeria a laughing matter. People don't think Nigeria is a democracy. And I think that you need to look at the brilliant thought of Reverend Father Professor Anthony Akinwale at the presentation of Fayemi's book, that we are modeling up too many things and pretending Nigeria is a democracy. It is not a democracy. I know it is not. I've participated in the process. I know it is not a democracy. I have been 419 by political parties that I was part of founding, like the APC. I know that it is a completely manipulated process of people who own, quote unquote, the party. So how do we get Nigerians to begin to take the outcomes of elections seriously? Very simple. We've got to find a system that is so transparent, and the electronic process is surely one of the ways, but not the only way, because even it can be sabotaged. But I am even willing to say Nigeria should stop trying to organize elections. Let's ask the UN or somebody, since we're not incapable of doing that well. Let's ask some foreign body to come and organize elections. Once it's transparent, I don't think anybody will quarrel about who is emerging from that process.
But Prof, well, yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Opinion is divided on the 2023 general elections in Nigeria. And, INEC has declared Bola Tinubu winner of the presidential election, is now president-elect. The secretary to the government of the Federation has told us nothing will stop the inauguration on May 29, regardless of the fact that, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal is sitting. The law, Section 285 of the Constitution, provides for 180 days for the case to be determined, by which time Bola Tinubu will have been installed. Members of the APC are saying the election is over. People should just move on. So, do you think that government will have a crisis of legitimacy, and how?
Absolutely. Without coup d'etats in Nigeria, soldiers are not the only ones who carry out coup d'etats. Civilians can carry out coup d'etats. 2023 election could be a coup d'etat against the Nigerian people. The fact that it has been carried out doesn't necessarily make it legitimate. It might make the fact that the government has come up. In that regard, I have a very simple solution. Look, if we really don't care for democracy, that's okay. No big problem. We have soldiers who come. And